my color. I was so fatigued that I could only stay for a certain part of the ceremonies where I'd have to go out and I'd have to lie in the car and rest for a while. After the ceremonies, after the graduation pictures were taken, I was talking to one of Matt's teachers, and perhaps I wasn't as alert as what he thought I would be, and he commented to one of Matt's friends after, is that, was Matt's dad all there? Well, that got back to Matt through his friends, and of course I wasn't very happy with it. And I had quite a go-around with the superintendent of the schools over that. But it puts a lot of social acceptance, the peer pressure. Fine, it's bad enough on me looking like that, but when it starts affecting your family, it really becomes a big concern. July 14th, I'm sitting in my office. We were planning a staff barbecue, and I didn't have enough energy to go do anything. So I asked my wife, I phoned my wife and I told her to come. And this date sticks out very vividly in my mind because in her haste to come to my rescue, she got a $130 speeding ticket. The ascites is very prominent. You can see that my weight was 297 pounds, where a month ago I was 228. Things were progressing, and I was going through some of the preliminaries and lining up to get an assessment in London, Ontario for a liver transplant. One of the things that was very evident in my life at that point, I was entering the toughest fight of my life to get considered on the list for a liver transplant. There's lots of sick people, and there just isn't enough organs. So who wins? The preliminary tests to be considered for a chance of getting down to London are just overwhelming. I'd never been sick. I wasn't familiar with any of this stuff. And the fact the doctor telling me about it, ERCPs, and colonoscopies, and bladder scoping. I said to the doctors, I said, you're going to put the scope down my what? I said, up my where? And I said, into my... I says, are you sure there aren't any other options? It was simply overwhelming, some of the tests we had to get just to get down to London so we could go through a lot of the same things again. In London, I was seen by 7 of the transplant team members. And I was feeling pretty good after we left. And that was November 24th when we left there, of 2001. And I was feeling pretty good. And just before they left, there was just one little simple test that I had to go. And I thought, well, it shouldn't be bad because it's just a blood test. I had no idea that they could get 22 tubes of blood out of one tiny little hole. On November 26th, it was a tough weekend waiting to see whether you had an opportunity to get on that list or not. And on November 26th, I was phoned and given the good news that yes, they like what they've seen. You've made the list, and you're in the 125 position, and you could be looking for a transplant in about a year and a half. Well, the mathematics didn't work very good because I'd been told my liver's only going to last 12 months. They're telling me I get a liver transplant in 18 months. So that was just the beginning of some very severe depression. The depression got so bad that when the liver starts to fail at that stage, you can't sleep. Minute here, 2 minutes there, whatever. I've got a family rotating around me, and I'm kind of in the middle of it. I didn't want to keep everybody up all night worrying about what I was doing. I slept in the basement. I watched cooking shows to keep myself busy. I watched all the cooking shows. Emerald, Bobby Flay, Martha Stewart. I'll tell you, I could cook anything. It kept me occupied, it kept me going. But I didn't want to disturb everybody else, so I went on kind of like my own 24-hour clock. I took control of my own diet. I watched exactly what I ate. We made homemade soup. My wife was running all over town looking for soup bones and any kind of spices because my taste buds were going. Any kind of spices that wasn't harmful for my liver. And I would sit there at the chair and at the stove, I couldn't stand up very long, and I'd be cooking away. You could say it was a bleak Christmas, because that's an exact picture of hepatitis at work. And there I am, my muscle mass, my mind was slipping there. I know it's fading, and I'm watching my body slowly dissolve. I can't walk. I want to do my share, and I sat there trying to carve that ham for over an hour. I went into the hospital on January 22nd, and we called London. I wasn't feeling very well and wanted to see if I'd be moved up on the list at all. And there was some good news. I moved up and I was now 123, so I moved up 2. So things didn't look that good. But then all of a sudden there was an amazing miracle that happened. On January 25th, just a few days later, London called me. They said, "You're number 1." On January 26th, late at night, my wife was up seeing me. She stayed till 10 after 12, which put us into January 27th. As she was walking out of the hospital after visiting me, one of the nurses called her and asked her, she says, "Where are you going?" She says, "I'm going home." He says, "No, you're not. Dan's going to London right now. And he's going to be having a liver transplant." She comes joyfully back into the room. They just given me a great amount of morphine, so I wasn't completely all there. And she told me that, how happy she was because we're going to London. I thought we'd won a trip to England. I was very happy. She went home. By the time she got back, she was downstairs by the time they got me off the 5th floor. We were Learjetted to London. And things were going rather well. The liver transplant was delayed because the organ donor, they needed the heart and lungs. So we had a slight delay there. So we were there at 4 o'clock in the morning, the liver transplant. I wasn't going down to the operating room until 8 o'clock. We sat down there, talked to the anesthesiast. The surgeon came out and talked to me, Dr. McAllister. And he said, "Dan," he said, "don't worry," he says, "I'll do a good job." And I can honestly say till today, that man certainly keeps his word. Before going into the operating room, I'd never seen anybody that's had a liver transplant or any other kind of transplant. I asked several times, but there just didn't seem to be anybody around. So I didn't know really, does this stuff really work? But then the options are very limited. The only prayer that we said, my wife and I, before I was pushed into the room, was a prayer for the liver donor. I prayed for God to thank that person for the great gift that they were giving me, the gift of life. I wasn't concerned about myself. I knew I was in good hands, Jesus' hands. So after the liver transplant, coming out of the anesthesia, anesthetic I should say, sorry, I come out of it very hard. I really wasn't aware where I was. I knew I didn't like it. I was sore, very, very sore. And the nurse that was bringing me out was just tapping me on the face, and I had my mouth, I had tubes everywhere. I had 4 or 5 IVs in and tubes in my side and all over the place. And I'd never had that kind of an experience. And I'd spit the tubes out, and he'd push them back in. I'd spit it back out, and he'd push them back in.